There are some quarrels in marriage that are like little scratches. They sting for a moment and then heal without leaving a mark. But there are others, the ones that start small, but somehow dig deep, grow roots, and refuse to die. For Ifeanyi and his wife Ada, it all began on a Tuesday evening over a simple plate of yam porridge. The day had been long for both of them. Ifeanyi, a tall, broad-shouldered man in his early 40s, had spent the day at the motor parts market, bargaining with customers who were as stubborn as he was. Ada, 37, plump in the right places, with bright eyes and a voice that could fill a room, had been juggling her office work and house chores. By the time Ifeanyi came home, the smell of Ada's cooking had already filled the compound. Neighbors passing by the open window muttered, "God bless this woman," under their breath. When he sat down to eat, he did not wait for her to join him. He scooped the first spoonful of yam porridge into his mouth, and then he paused. Ada, coming in with her own plate, noticed his hesitation. "What is it?" she asked, placing her own plate on the table. Ifeanyi took a spoonful, chewed, swallowed, and then said in a flat voice, "Ada, why is there so much salt in this food? Are you trying to pickle me alive?" Ada froze. "It's not that bad." "Not that bad?" Ifeanyi scoffed. "My tongue is burning. I can feel my blood pressure climbing. Do you want to kill me before my time?" It was meant to be an offhand comment, maybe even half a joke. But his tone was sharp, and the words sliced deeper than he intended. Ada did not argue. She simply picked up her plate and began eating in silence. For the next 2 days, Ada said very little to her husband. She still swept the house, ironed his shirt, and answered when he spoke, but only with short, careful sentences. On Friday evening, Ifeanyi came home to a surprise. The kitchen smelled empty. No onions sizzling, no pepper stew boiling, no soup pot humming on the stove. He found Ada in the sitting room, calmly eating fried plantain and egg from a small plate. "Where's my food?" he asked. Ada looked at him without a smile. "Oh, I did not cook for you. I cooked for myself." For a moment, Ifeanyi thought she was joking. "What do you mean you cooked for yourself? Is this not your husband's house?" Ada placed her fork down. "You said my food has too much salt. I don't want to kill you. So from now on, I will only cook for myself. You can prepare your own food the way you like it, with no salt at all, if you wish." Ifeanyi stood there, stunned. "Ada, stop being childish. This is marriage, not secondary school punishment." But Ada only picked up her plate and continued eating, her eyes fixed on the television. At first, Ifeanyi thought it was just a passing mood. She would come around in a day or two, apologize, and go back to cooking for both of them. But Ada did not bend. Every evening, she cooked just enough for herself. Sometimes simple noodles, sometimes vegetables, other times fried yam, and then washed her plates immediately after eating. The sink remained empty of her utensils, but Ifeanyi's plates and pots piled up whenever he cooked for himself. She didn't nag, she did not shout, she simply stopped. The first week, Ifeanyi ate bread and sardines for dinner. The second week, he tried cooking rice, but burnt it twice. By the third week, he was paying a nearby restaurant woman, Mama Chica, to send food to the house. In a compound like theirs, nothing stays private for long. One evening, as Ifeanyi returned from work carrying a takeaway bag, his neighbor Chima called out from his balcony, "Ah, Chief, so now you're buying food every night. What happened to Madam Ada's magical hands?" Ifeanyi forced a laugh. "She's taking a break." But gossip moves faster than fire in dry grass. Soon, Half the compound knew that Ada had stopped cooking for her husband. Some said it was because he embarrassed her in public. Others claimed it was punishment for a secret affair. Ada ignored the whispers. She went about her life as though nothing unusual had happened. It was not just about the food anymore. Ifeanyi began to feel the shift in other areas. On Saturday mornings, Ada used to cook in bulk for the week, filling the freezer with soup and stew. Now, she only made enough for one person. When Ifeanyi left his dirty plate in the sink, Ada would only wash hers and leave his untouched. When they sat together in the sitting room, the air between them was cold. One night, after a long day, Ifeanyi walked into the kitchen and found Ada eating jollof rice. The smell made his stomach growl. "You didn't even think to keep some for me?" he asked, leaning on the doorframe. Ada swallowed and then replied calmly, "You have a mouth, you can ask. You have hands, you can cook. You have money, you can buy. Choose one." But the second month, Ifeanyi's pride was bleeding. He missed the way she used to fuss over his meals, missed the warmth of eating together. But each time he tried to bring up the topic, Ada would simply say, "You started this, Ifeanyi. I'm just respecting your taste." One rainy evening, Ifeanyi came home, drenched and hungry. His shirt clung to his skin, his shoes squelched with water. He found Ada eating steaming hot pepper soup in the sitting room. Something in him snapped. "Ada, enough of this nonsense. I am your husband. Stop this childish behavior and cook for me like before." Ada put down her spoon. Her eyes were calm, but her voice was cold. "I cooked for you for 11 years without complaint. One day, you told me my food could kill you. I took you seriously. I stopped. That's not childish, Ifeanyi. That's obedience." The room went quiet, except for the sound of rain against the window. The next week, Ifeanyi's younger sister Ngozi came to visit. She was a sharp-tongued woman who believed she could fix any problem. By the second day, she noticed the arrangement. "Brother, why are you buying food from outside?" "Ada, you're just watching him waste money?" Ada did not answer. She simply smiled and excused herself. That evening, Ngozi cornered her in the kitchen. "You want my brother to be eating another woman's food every night. You're giving his stomach to strangers. Tomorrow, you'll be crying that he's changed." Ada washed her plate slowly. "Ngozi, your brother is a grown man. If he wants my cooking, he knows what to do." Ifeanyi spent that night turning on his bed. He thought of the early years of their marriage, how Ada would pack his lunch in a neat flask, how they would sit together and taste the food before adding salt. He remembered her laugh, the way she used to feed him from her plate. He also remembered that evening with the yam porridge, the way her face had fallen at his words. The next day, he went into the kitchen while she was cooking her own meal. "Ada," he began, scratching his head. "About that day with the salt, maybe I overreacted. I did not mean to hurt you." She did not stop stirring the pot. "I know you did not mean to, but words have weight, Ifeanyi. You threw yours like stones. I just decided to build a wall with them." He sighed. "So what will it take to bring down the wall?" Ada turned to face him fully. "You want my cooking again? Then you have to do 3 things. Apologize without excuses. Promise never to mock my food again. And," she smiled, "cook for me for 1 week, so you'll understand the work I do." Ifeanyi thought it would be easy. After all, how hard would it be to cook for one person? By the third day, he was sweating over the stove, chopping vegetables, burning his fingers, and running to YouTube for recipes. Ada sat at the table, watching him with quiet amusement. "Not too much salt, oh," she teased on the 5th day. They both laughed, the first real laugh they had shared in weeks. When the week ended, Ada turned to cooking for both of them. The first night, she made yam porridge again. Ifeanyi took a spoonful, closed his eyes, and smiled. "This is perfect," he said softly. Ada chuckled. "Not too much salt?" "Just enough," he replied. And from that day, Ifeanyi never again complained about her food without care. And Ada, though she forgave, she never forgot. Because sometimes the smallest quarrels can teach the biggest lessons about respect, about gratitude, and about the weight of words. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.